Kashmir, unfortunately, has many stories of violence. So much violence took place, and violence against Pandits is only one among them. We're going to discuss one story of violence that took place in Jammu, and at a very early stage. This is regarding the violence that took place in Jammu, this region. In 1947, in Jammu, 61% of people are Muslims. In Kashmir, 93%. And totally 77% Muslims and 21% Hindus and others remaining. But so much happened in Jammu that the demography changed. Muslims became minority in Jammu, in what we can call ethnic cleansing, and also a lot of killings. And how do we know about these killings? We have evidence in terms of certain papers reporting at the time. For example, this magazine, The Spectator, which was a British weekly from 1828. So this is the oldest magazine in the world. There, this Horace Alexander, okay, wrote on 16th January in 1948 that the number of Muslims killed is 2 lakhs. And during what time were they killed? They were killed during September to November 1947. Okay, so that was what Spectator had reported. So it shows that violence was being reported somewhere or the other. And what did others say? This is about the Times newspaper, London. On its date 10th August 1948. It says 2,37,000 Muslims were systematically exterminated unless they escaped to Pakistan along the border. And who did this? By the forces of Dogra state, headed by Maharaja in person, aided by Hindus and Sikhs. Okay. This happened in October 1947, 5 days before Pathan invasion and 9 days before Maharaja's accession to India. So he was saying 2,37,000 Muslims were killed by October. But there was violence even after October. So this was reported in Times. And then even Gandhi said on 25th December 1947, the Hindus and Sikhs of Jammu and those who had gone from outside killed Muslims. The Maharaja of Kashmir is responsible for what is happening. Muslim women have been dishonored. So Gandhi himself said this. Next, one journalist from Jammu by name Ved Bhashan presented a paper in Jammu University in 2003. He talks about certain specific cases. In one such case is about Muslims in Thalab Khati Khan, Jammu region. Okay. He narrates how Muslims were fooled to believe that they were being escorted to a safe place, but they were stopped in between and killed. This is what he says. Administration encouraged them to go to Pakistan for safety. The first batch of several thousands of these Muslims were loaded in about 60 lorries to take them to Sialkot. Unaware of what is to happen to them, these families boarded the buses. These vehicles were escorted by troops. But when they reached near Chata on Jammu Sialkot road, a large number of RSS men and Sikh refugees were positioned there. The Muslims were pulled out the vehicles and killed mercilessly, with soldiers either joining or looking as idle spectators. So they were fooled, taken near the border and killed. The news about the massacre was kept closely guarded secret. Why? The next day, another batch of these Muslim families were similarly boarded in the vehicles and met the safe fate. That was a journalist account. He feared reporting it at the time when that was happening. But years later, this is what he had to say. These are all unreported events. Not that they were not reported anywhere, but it is just that they did not enter the mainstream. And next, this is a more scholarly work. Professor Arjun Appadrai and Arian Mack. Appadrai was a New York University professor. In their book, India's World, 2012, they gave an estimate. 2 lakh Muslims killed and 5 lakhs displaced. Two lakhs killed and 5 lakhs displaced. These are not careless figures. So some estimates are being made, and in an academic work. And next, this book by Christopher Snedden, the title Understanding Kashmir and Kashmiris, gives his own judgment. He says perhaps some 20,000 to 1 lakh Muslims were killed in Jammu province in 1947, although considerable research is needed to confirm this. These figures did not include rapes, abductions, and serious injuries. Around 4 lakh Jammu Muslims fled Ajad Kashmir, which had 150,000 refugees. Few of the refugees ever returned home. So, in fact, I got to know about the violence in Jammu at that time from this book only. After first learning about this thing from this book, I just refer to other sources. So this is a very important book. And probably this is the worst tragedy. Okay. Muhammad Ashraf Wani, a professor of history at University of Jammu, says this is the worst tragedy in the history of Kashmir, but unfortunately, no one talks about it because the state does not want anyone to remember it. So, many instances of violence were not talked about. So what this points out is that we have to see the totality of the context and total violence, and only then we will know big picture. And within the big picture, we need to assess diverse stories of violence. Then only you will get to know the truth. And also how level of violence is estimated. You have to see things like who reported when, what was the number, and what are the estimates, what are the sources. So like this, you have to make certain estimates and explain why you think this is the estimate or not that. It is just not that you give some events and then suddenly you give one huge number without giving any evidence for that number. Okay. So this is about, we can say, Jammu file.